Welcome to Let the Quran Speak, and peace be with you. My name is Umar Chaudhry, and I'm your host for this episode. At Let the Quran Speak, we try to clear any misconceptions that exist with the religion of Islam, and to help us with this task, we have Brother Shabir Ali from the Islamic Information and Dawah Center International. Welcome to the show, Brother Shabir.
A pleasure to be on.
It is customary for us to begin with a portion from the Quran. Today we'll be discussing chapter number 5, verse number 90. Now, Brother Shabir, we've been covering this chapter for a while. Obviously, it's an important one because we keep finding such great verses within it. Now, verse number 90, can you give us a brief introduction to this verse?
Basically, this verse says that drinking and gambling and worshipping idols and also dividing things by arrows by way of gambling are ways introduced by the devil. And in fact, the devil uses drinking and gambling in order to sow enmity between people. Therefore, we should shun these things.
Now, both these practices were rampant in that society. How did it happen? How did they basically abolish these all of a sudden?
Actually, it wasn't abolished suddenly, because the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, received revelations for many years, which did not speak of any of these legalities, did not give direct commands of a very specific nature, and did not prohibit some of these practices. So for many years, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, basically struggled with his community in order to reform them spiritually. And once that stage had been reached where the community was ready and willing to receive commandments from God and to put them into action, that is when the commands such as this one came into effect.
Now, this argument might not work for all. I mean, the fact that it's a work of the devil, because somebody might say, for example, now studies show that alcohol, at least in moderation, can have benefits, and why would anything good come from same?
Well, the Quran does not deny that there are some benefits to be gained from alcohol. In fact, in another verse that we're not discussing now, in chapter 2, it says, يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْخَمْرِ وَالْمَيْسِرِ. They ask you about drinking and gambling. قُلْ فِيهِمَا إِثْمٌ كَبِيرٌ وَمَنَافِعُ لِلنَّاسِ. Say in it, or in the two things, are some benefits, but great harm as well. وَإِثْمُهُمَا أَكْبَرُ مِنَ النَّفْعِ. The sin of it is greater than the benefit to be gained. So while the Quran is acknowledging that there are some benefits in these things, at the same time it is saying the harm is greater, and therefore thinking people should do better to just give up these things.
Now, you talked about arrows as well. That was a little unclear. How is that gambling? I didn't understand how they would use that for gambling.
What is noted in one of the classical commentaries that I consulted is that the arrows had a practice where they would, for example, slaughter an animal and then use arrows. By drawing arrows, it's like drawing lots. So whose name comes up gets the bigger and greater share, for example. So this, of course, means that some people gain and some others lose for no reason than simply the drawing of lots. And this is not permissible.
So let's say, and I remember a couple of brothers used to do this, for example, if you're going to give azan and 3 people want to do it, how do they choose? They used to draw straws. Is that wrong as well?
Well, this is not wrong, because in this case there is no injustice done to any particular person. His property, nothing of his is really taken, and you need some reasonable way of reaching agreement in this situation. And so the drawing of straws or lots or names in order to reach a reasonable compromise or an agreement is fine. And this too has been described in the tafsir that I consulted. But the sort of thing which is not permissible is where something is to be divvied up, and you draw lots to find out who gets the greater share.
Now, are these things new in Islam, or do we see these already in the scriptures that came before?
Well, definitely drunkenness had been prohibited in the previous scriptures. Islam took a stricter stance regarding drinking and prohibited it altogether. And probably the reason for that is that if we say that a little bit is permissible, then one doesn't know where to draw the line. Someone takes a little bit and then he becomes addicted to it, and eventually he takes a lot or so continuously that he harms himself. So the best way seems to be totally abstinent from it.
And what about gambling?
Gambling, I'm not sure what has been said about this in the previous scriptures, but gambling has been known throughout history to be such a harmful practice to society in general that I'm sure I would be surprised if nothing negative is mentioned regarding it.
Thank you, Brother Shabir.
Welcome.
We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. Please stay tuned.